Welcome to the Majestic Devlog. Over the past few weeks, I've made more progress on objectives, cinematics, puzzles. I've done some big changes to the level, a little work on the HUD, and I've spent a lot of time improving the character, from visuals and animations to the camera and movement systems. This is a casual open world exploration game. I'm working to make this an immersive and cinematic experience. To accommodate the exploration aspect, there are artifacts scattered throughout the world. Find these artifacts and interact with them to unveil where a story objective is. Story objectives are mostly cinematics that you can watch and sometimes interact with. These are always located in the same place. Basically, the artifact is the exploration aspect of the game, and the cinematic is the story aspect of the game. So that is the core gameplay loop. You go out, find artifacts, which are randomly scattered about, activate them, and then you can easily see where to go next, watch the story scene, and continue on your way to the next objective. That's basically how my last game was built as well, and it seemed to work pretty well. But for this game, I want to take it a step further, and I want to add challenges or puzzles. So puzzles and challenges, there's a few concerns with those. I don't want one of these to create a roadblock, preventing the player from progressing forward. So to alleviate these concerns, I think the challenges and puzzles in this game will be mostly optional. Completing them will provide extra rewards, possibly extra cinematics, or more power to your character, but they won't be required to progress and see the majority of the story. I do want players to experience as much of the story as possible, and I don't want puzzles throwing up roadblocks that might cause players to quit in frustration. So here's a cinematic I've been working on. This scene is not really part of my original script. There's no dialogue. It's more of a filler scene. This cinematic came about after I was sculpting the landscape in this area, and I just wanted something here and had this idea for something a little more action oriented, something I've not really done much of before. I wanted to push myself with this cinematic and add as many elements as possible within reason. Getting this far has taken me about a week and a half. It's not perfect and it's not necessarily complete yet, but I have taken a break from it for now. I think this cinematic could be a reward for solving a challenge in this area, but I don't expect cinematics to be the reward for every challenge, as they do take a lot of time to create. This cinematic has been a lot of fun to create, but it has come with a host of challenges. The main purpose of this exercise was to develop most of the tools I'll need to create higher quality cinematics across the entire game. One of the major challenges with this scene was, as soon as I made this a nighttime scene with inclement weather, everything just was way too dark. There was not enough light to illuminate the scene. In the end, I just decided to increase the intensity of the moonlight at nighttime, and this affects not just the cinematic but the entire game. So what you see now is the darkest the game should get, and I think it looks fine. This is not meant to be a horror game that's meant to be pitch black, and the moon or fantasy planet in the sky is rather large, so I think this level of brightness is just fine. It's very stylized, which also matches my last game. So right now, nighttime in this game is just not going to be very dark. So that's basically where the cinematic stands right now, and it did lead me to a few solutions for the game that I hope will be well received. I hope the work I've done on this cinematic will translate to my future cinematics, and the quality bar will just be a little higher overall. I've spent a lot of time iterating on the player character, and here's where we are at right now. I just kind of cleaned it up a bit and sharpened up the image. I've enlarged the wings and the tail wings. I completely replaced the eyes. Before they were built into the mesh. Now I've used the eyes that come from the Paragon characters or the meta-human characters. I added a couple bones for the eyes. There's a couple blend spaces so that the eyes can blink. And I did the same treatment to the tongue. It used to be built into the mesh. and couldn't be moved. Now the tongue can be animated as well. The character now blinks and the mouth will move. There's an idle mouth animation that plays, and the character looks a little more lifelike. Because I've enlarged the wings, some of the animations, when they are folded, they need to be fixed up still. The wings do not fold as nicely as they did before, so that's on my to-do list. I completely retextured the character in Substance Painter. I'm experimenting with a few different color schemes. Right now we're at this blue and pink color scheme. I am tweaking in Unreal Engine, changing the hue, contrast, and color additives to see where I want the colors to land. This is probably the 4th or 5th iteration of the character. Originally, I started off creating something in ZBrush, and I spent a lot of time working on this, and then I never got to a point it was satisfactory, and when I put it in the game, it was super noisy, and I know I needed to simplify. So I simplified everything down into this next version, and then I realized rigging the wings was just going to be super difficult. They looked okay when they weren't folded, but folding them up was going to be a problem. And in my next attempt, I decided to look for an asset I could modify, which had animations I could use and quickly get things implemented into the game, because I was spending a lot of time trying to figure out this character design. I found this eagle asset and I exported it to Blender, started messing with it. It's super low poly and the textures are pretty basic, but it had a lot of good animations and I figured I could work with this. I added in the plumes, the phyllo plumes, and changed up the material a little bit, and then got the character moving and in the game. And that's where it stood for quite a while. I'm editing it even more, and we're at the current state that you see now. I think it's in a pretty good spot. It's feeling a lot better than it used to. I've done a lot of work with animations and movements, particularly with the ground-based movements, idle animations, jumping. When the character is idle, it'll now stretch its wings, flap them around. It moves its mouth, it blinks. I think with all these little movements and additions, the character's starting to really come to life and just feel a whole lot better. Another feature that I added is you can now free look around the character, which I think is a very important feature for a game like this. I want players to be able to take awesome screenshots with the character in the frame from any different angle. So a challenge with this is when you take control of the camera, it takes away control of moving the character. The character won't turn while you're looking around, but overall the feature's coming along pretty well. So now you can get some really epic shots of the character going through the environment. So I made a few changes to the level. First thing is it's a little more mountainous. Near all the floating islands are some mountain ranges that reach up towards them and allow them to blend in better to the environment. I've toned down the orange material on the islands and canyons. Now they're more brown and blend in with the environment. I also changed out the stone texture that's on the cliff faces and mountains. It was a little too detailed previously. Another giant change to this level is in this area at this far end of the level, I've really changed the elevation a lot. Instead of going up, I really carved into the level and have a steep drop off. I have added a couple widgets for the HUD. One of these is an updated version of the Essence widget. It's a circular indicator, which when filled means you're at the maximum amount of essence you can store. Again, essence is going to be the primary resource and currency for the game. And the other interface item next to it is the level progress indicator. As you find artifacts, the circular indicator will fill, and as you successfully activate the story objectives, the diamond-shaped indicators will fill. The progress bar will fill based on the number of objectives you've found. It's more of a overall level completion progress bar. So I think that about does it for this one. Please wishlist and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.